Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Anna, and on this channel, I'm sharing our journey of learning how to turn our home into a homestead. Today, we are canning caramelized onions. Just a side note here, this is a Rebel canning method. It's not approved, but there's a lot of people out there that I found that are making this. This recipe, I originally came across, I think, Whippoorwill Holler. Sorry, it's hard for me to say that. Whippoorwill Holler. She did a canning video recently on this, and I was pretty intrigued by it, so I did a little bit more digging on it and found out there's quite a few people who actually do it. And my husband really enjoys caramelized onions and a lot of the dishes that he makes, and so I want to go, but they take so long to do. So I wanted to go ahead and just give him, I'm going to make these in the half-pint jars. So it's going to be kind of individual servings, and you can just dump it in whatever meal he's making, and he'll have ready-made caramelized onions. So hopefully that should make him pretty happy. If you're interested in learning about more of these sorts of things along with me, we're doing canning videos, fermenting videos, and preserving, dehydrating, cooking, all of those sorts of things, as well as an occasional chicken and gardening video. Be sure to go ahead and subscribe to this channel for more awesome content like that, and hit the thumbs up button if you enjoy this video, and let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we have our crock pot out. It is set to high heat. It's just starting to kind of get going and getting warm. We're going to add to it one block of butter, and then the recipes that I found were about 12 pounds. So I have two 10-pound bags. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna plow through all this, and we're gonna make sure to save all of the ends and the pieces and the peels and things like that. And we can use that for a recipe later on where we're going to be making some, it's a needy homesteader recipe, and that is for canned up onion broth, which is hopefully good. I tried it once and I did not follow, I didn't know what to actually do, and so I just used only the ends and pieces and very little of the actual onions, and that didn't work very well. So we're gonna try it again and we'll see how it goes. I'll let you know in a different video if that works out for me. So all we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring you in close up so you don't have to watch me cry for a couple of minutes, and I'm gonna chop all of these up and get them into the crock pot. Real quick, I just wanted to show you, this crock pot is completely full. You can see it's totally full, but this is what will make it actually 12 pounds for the recipe that we need. And this is gonna cook down. Just didn't want to let go of that little cock-doodle-doo. I'm lucky to have a crock pot that has this little latch thing on it on both sides, so I can actually make sure that the lid is on there all the way. It shouldn't take too long for it to kind of cook down just enough to be able to add the rest of these into it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let this cook down enough to where we can add this to it, and then we'll move on to the next step. So you can see it has definitely started to break down, and it has started to cook down rather. So now I'm gonna get a nice big stir. I think it's broken down enough that I can add in the rest of this onion here. You can see it's just kind of doing its thing. It has been an hour and a half since I plugged it in over here. So we're probably at about 2 hours total so far. You can see lots of the butter's broken down, and the onions are starting to release a lot of its moisture. And it's kind of difficult to stir, but we're getting there. Probably not the best idea, but whatever. It'll work. Because we'll make it work. Okay. Hopefully I don't break my crock pot. It shouldn't take too long to break down even further So yeah, that's all there is to it. I'll bring you back when we're ready to like stir it or something like that, but not much left. It's been probably about, I think, 13 or 14 hours since we left the caramelized onions to cook down. And so now we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna can these things up. So everything ready. We have clean jars. They're not sterilized. They're gonna be cooking long enough that they don't need to be sterilized, but they are clean. I just washed them. And we have our canning funnel, our debubbler tool. We have some vinegar, and we're just ready to start loading these things up. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and use a pair of tongs and transfer it over. We're looking for a 1/2 inch of headspace on this recipe. So next, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take our paper towel, dip it in the vinegar, wipe the rim really well, take the lid, jar. Fingertip tight, which is as tight as you can get it with these 3 fingers, practically with the fingertips, and into the canner. Okay. So we're just gonna repeat that until we run out of canner load space. I think we'll see how many we actually get out of this. It's a lot, so. So I just realized a step that I completely forgot. So we have to go through and redo all of these. Okay. Debubble. My bad. So we have to redo all of them. We need to make sure that we're wiping the rims again. Make sure these are clean, which it is. If it's not clean, then I will wipe it off again. So. Okay, so now that we have the canner all filled up, all we're gonna do, put the lid on it, close it, and crank the heat up to high. And so all we're gonna do with this is we're going to bring it up to high. It's gonna start streaming steam out of this vent hole here, and then at some point shortly after that, this is gonna pop up. Once this pops up, I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. And then once the 10 minutes is up, we're just gonna put this little thing on here, just like that, and then and wait for it to warm up. It shouldn't take but a couple minutes, and it's gonna start to jiggle, and then this is gonna go up to 10 pounds of pressure where I'm at. It depends on where you're at, and so you just need to look it up. It depends on your altitude basically, and so once this gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, we're gonna set our timer for 70 minutes. That's 70 minutes, and then when that time's up, we're gonna go ahead and turn off the stove, and I'll probably bring you back at some point then thereafter. The time is up on the canner, and now we're going to pull it out. So we got everything out of the canner, and now we're gonna go ahead and just let these sit on the counter overnight, and then tomorrow evening we'll go ahead and do a taste test and First thing in the morning, we're going to double check to make sure that we have seals on all of these. And then after that, we'll go ahead and let it continue to rest overnight. Continue to let it rest until tomorrow evening, and then we'll do a taste test and then just see what we have. It's been about 36 hours since we canned up our caramelized onions, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to bring you guys along for anybody who might be new to canning, to show you how to kind of process these and like clean up the jars, and just kind of the after the canning what you do with it to properly store it. So I wanted to bring you along and show you. I have a sink filled with warm water, not hot but warm, and with a bunch of dish soap. Not a bunch, it's like, you know, just a squirt of dish soap, and then like a glug of vinegar. And you want to make sure to add the vinegar to it, especially for a recipe like this, because we did cook it with a thing of butter, and so you want to make sure that you're cutting any of the grease that can be in there, and the vinegar is really great for that. So let's just go ahead and get started. But basically what I do is I have all the jars over here. Bring them in closer. Okay, so we got all the jars are over here. And what I do with them is I just take the screw up the top off, I hold them by the lid to put them into the water. This one I already took off. Now make sure you're holding them by the lid, just right, like literally, like that's all I'm holding on to it by, is just the lid. And that way, I mean, I already checked all of these the following morning because I finished this canning session super late at night. So the next morning I checked all of these to make sure they had seals, and at least visibly they have seals. But the best way to tell, every once in a while I've been surprised with one that seems like it has a seal, but then you hold it by the lid and it just falls right out. So we're gonna do this. Every single one. Hold on to it. Because if I have a failed seal, I'd rather know about it now than to find out about it, you know, 3 months from now, when I'm kind of wondering what that funk is coming from the pantry. So next, what I like to do is I just take a clean dish towel, you know, it's just one of these crummy little Walmart towels, and I just wash everything and put it into the next sink. And these sinks are cleaned out. I cleaned them all. They're perfectly clean. So basically what I do is I just hold it in my hand. I kind of clean the outside of the jar a little bit, wipe my hand on the towel if it's greasy, and then I just, like, you shouldn't have to be concerned with being, I mean, you don't want to like throw them around or anything, but they should be able to handle a reasonable amount of force when cleaning it, you know, perfectly fine. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're getting it nice and clean so you don't get any kind of mold forming or any kind of, you know, bugs or things like that that are interested in the little food remnants that you have on your jars. You know, you just don't want to have that. You want to have nice, clean jars in your pantry. I like to rinse all of these at the same time just to save water. Like, I don't want to leave the water running and rinse them one at a time and, you know, all that kind of jazz. So what I like to do is just rinse them all off one at a time. So that's about all there is to actually cleaning up these jars and getting them ready to throw into the pantry. All we're going to do next is just wait for them to dry or dry them off with a towel, and then we're going to write what it is and the date on there, and then it'll just be ready to throw into the pantry or find room for it in the pantry or whatever your case may be. That's about all there is to it. So the one thing that I thought would be kind of neat to do with you guys is to go ahead and open one of these up. This is technically a rebel canning method, as I've mentioned several different times. So if you are new to canning, I don't recommend you try this. It's kind of one of those things where you want to learn how to do things properly so that you know when it's okay to break the rules, if that makes any sense. And because if you don't know how to can, how do you know, you can't really use your own judgment as to whether or not a rebel canning method is okay if you don't really know, you know, if you don't know. I'm not saying that this is safe for everybody. I'm saying that I am okay with it, so I'm gonna do it, even though it's a rebel canning method and not approved. I can't put that in here enough. Okay, so got that nice sound there. Obviously it smells good, it's only been a day. Now we're ready to try the onion jam. Not onion jam. The caramelized onions. Okay. Tastes like caramelized onions. It definitely has a soft texture to it. It's not like, it'll definitely break apart pretty easily in whatever you make, but it's good. It just tastes like caramelized onions. I wouldn't call it necessarily mushy. Really, it just depends on how long you cook it down for. I cooked it down for quite a long time. If I hadn't cooked it down for quite as long, then it probably wouldn't be quite as mushy. It probably just is dependent on how long you cook them down for. Another way that you can do this, obviously, is you don't even have to use a slow cooker. You can just make caramelized onions like in the pan like you normally would. Grab a big old pan on the stove and cook it down. I've seen people do it that way as well. And that way would be a much quicker, but it would also be more hands-on, and you probably wouldn't be able to cook quite as many at the same time, which is probably fine because we got a lot of onions. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from this. Let me know down below if you guys have any experience canning just straight onions, apart from just like in a broth or something like that, or in a soup. I would really love to know your experiences with that. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.